And we are live. Welcome everyone to tonight's stream. I know we've not been live for a very long time, but I was extremely sick last week, and then I had to travel to go on Timcast IRL, and finally we're back home in the studio. Now, I wish I could sit here and say the regular stream schedule is coming back, but it is obviously the Christmas season coming up very soon. I'll be in and out, so honestly, it'll be pretty sporadic. I might try to do some streams on the non-normal days to fill in for that, so just honestly, stay tuned to the community tab over on the YouTube channel. That's mainly where we're going to be making those announcements. And yeah, but it is good to be back, guys. Welcome everyone. It's been a while, right? But a lot to talk about tonight. So first and foremost, Donald Trump has been named the Time Magazine Person of the Year. That's pretty epic. That's pretty cool to see. He also was ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange today. So what does it really mean for the culture? What should we think of it? We'll talk all about that. Also, there's some interesting snippets of that Time Magazine interview that I want to talk about. Also today, a Justice Department watchdog has released a report on whether or not there were federal agents in the building on January 6th. And let me just say, okay, MAGA is completely vindicated on this, but that's not what the mainstream media is reporting. They're trying to say the opposite. They're trying to say all the conspiracy theories just got debunked. No, they didn't. That's not what happened at all. But we'll talk about that as well. Also, some quick thoughts on the United Healthcare CEO situation and everything going on there. Also, RFK Jr. Apparently had some comments to say about certain weight loss drugs, and none other than Whoopi Goldberg over at The View was very personally offended by this. We'll talk about that. And also Tim Walz is celebrating Christmas in the most cringe way possible. We'll show you that little video at the end of tonight's stream. So with that said, guys, do us a big favor. Make sure you hit the like button right now on the stream. Let's see. We got 50 viewers in the chat so far. Make sure you get the stream, by the way, to 50 likes. Be sure to super chat the show with your thoughts and comments throughout the night. And with that said, I don't know. I don't have a lot of housekeeping. We haven't been live in a while, so we might as well... See, still sick here. Might as well get into everything we're going to talk about tonight. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. And all right, let's get right into it. So, right off the gate, obviously, the story of the day that you may have heard today is that Donald Trump has been named the Time Magazine Person of the Year. There's the cover, as you can see right there. And this comes around the same day that he was in Wall Street to ring the bell for the New York Stock Exchange. So let's tune in really quickly. Here's what he had to say about some of that.
Well, thank you very much. This is an honor, a tremendous honor. I brought some of our compatriots along with us. They're going to do a beautiful job for you for the next 4 years. And it's really been something very special. And I have to say, Time Magazine getting this honor for the second time. I think I like it better this time, actually, but we did a good job. We had a great first term, despite a lot of turmoil caused unnecessarily. But the media's tamed down a little bit. They're liking us much better now, I think. If they don't, we'll have to just take them on again, and we don't want to do that. But I do want to thank Time Magazine. I've been on the cover many times. I don't know who has the record, but I can only probably talk well about 25% of the covers. 25% are great. The others I just sort of hide. But it's been an honor, and every time it's an honor, I will tell you. And thank you very much for doing it. And thank the whole group at Time. Really very professional people. Thank you very much. And
okay, so there you have Donald Trump's obviously comments on being named Time Magazine Person of the Year. Many people like Don Lemon. In fact, he did this whole TikTok stream today crying about the fact that it was not Kamala Harris, because apparently Kamala should be awarded, you know, she didn't win the election, but let's hand her a participation award and give it to Kamala. Honestly, maybe back in like 2020, that's probably what would have happened. But I will say this, okay, so I have mixed thoughts on the whole situation, because on one hand, it is objectively cool to see. Obviously, it's cool to see in many ways how the culture for the past several years now has been shifting in our direction, and almost to an extent, it feels like Hollywood, sort of, but also the mainstream media and a lot of the cultural institutions feel so defeated. They see their kind of power in the market share diminishing so much that you've sort of felt this for the past couple years, right? Cancel culture against Trump supporters is not nearly what it was back during the first term. You got NFL players, you got athletes openly doing the Trump dance, all of this. So that's cool, right? You know, it's a good step in the culture war, whatever. At the same time, the reason why I say I have mixed viewpoints, not just on the Time Magazine thing, but on a lot of the seeming shifts in the culture, is that we have to be careful, because I think what you're going to see, guys, especially in the first year of Trump's next term, is you're going to see certain facets of the media be a little bit nicer to Trump than usual. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about the whole mainstream media, okay? Obviously, there are still many of them that are just as Trump deranged as they were before November 5th. We're not talking about those people, but you're going to see some isolated instances where some of the people who were super anti-Trump are going to sort of cozy up a little bit. You saw that, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg announced he would be donating $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund, and that prompted a response by Jeff Bezos through Amazon. So Amazon also donating $1 million to the inauguration fund there. And the reason I say we have to be careful is because, you know, if certain people in the media are suddenly being nicer to Trump, is it because they had an epiphany, or is it because they're trying to manipulate him? I think in many cases, the answer is going to be the latter, unfortunately, instead of the former, which is, I think a lot of these people saw the writing on the wall when they lost the election, which was, okay, so we can't just blindly call him Hitler because we're powerless now. There's nothing we can do. It clearly didn't work. So we got to try a different strategy. And I think the different strategy is going to be, maybe you're going to see some people in the media try to be a little bit nicer to Trump in order for the ultimate goal to be to water down his agenda. Let me give you an example of a hypothetical situation I could see, which is mass deportations. Okay. Obviously, the mainstream characters in the media really don't want to see this happen. So what are they going to try to do? Instead of just calling him Hitler or something, they'll say, no, please, Mr. Trump, come on, you know, and then if he does end up kind of walking back or backing off of mass deportations, which I hope he doesn't do, but in that scenario, they'll actually say, yay, Mr. Trump, you're the best. Thank you very much, right? A different kind of agenda, a different kind of playbook than what they did the first time, where everything Trump did was bad. Now, instead, right, they're going to try to like weasel their way in to get a seat at the table, get influence over him. And that's also why I say, yes, on one hand, it is cool to see certain aspects of the media be a little nicer to Trump. On the other hand, that's why you got to be careful, because I think these people have a lot of nefarious motives. I don't exactly think they're just, you know, suddenly waking up, etc. So that's what you got to be careful of. Now, with that said, I do want to read some little snippets here of this Time Magazine article where he was awarded the Person of the Year, because some of them are pretty legendary, some of them are pretty interesting. Let's get into that. So, for instance, right here. So this Time Magazine reporter asked Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, a question on the minds of a lot of Americans. Will you restore your policy of separating families? Obviously, they're talking about the controversial, quote unquote, family separation policy that he did at the border the first time around. His response is this: I don't think I won't have to, because first of all, it wasn't my policy. It was Obama's policy. I didn't build jail cells for children. He did. If you look at the 2014, the reporter says, I don't want to litigate the past. I'm just asking if you will do this, which is interesting because the reporter says, I don't want to litigate the past while litigating the past. But anyways, Trump's response here, check this out, is, well, you said your policy. This was a policy of the country. But check this out. I don't believe we'll have to, because we will send the whole family back to the country. So there you have it. There's Trump commenting a little bit on his agenda of mass deportations, which he's doubled down on so far, right? Very little indication that he's suddenly backing off of it, and, you know, nor should he, right? That is something he campaigned on. That's something the American people, by polling, want to see. And if you don't believe the polling, look at the election results. Like, it's very clear. But that's what he had to say about that. Here's another one. Have you decided yet whether you're going to pardon all of the January 6th defendants? Trump's response is yes. You're going to do all of them? This Time reporter asks, I'm going to do case by case. If they were non-violent, I think they've been greatly punished. And the answer is I will be doing that. Yeah, I'm going to look if there's some that were really out of control. So you will not include those who committed violent acts? Trump's response here is, well, we're going to look at every individual case and we're going to do it very quickly. And it's going to start in the first hour that I get into office. And a vast majority of them, talking about the J6 people, should not be in jail. A vast majority should not be in jail, and they've suffered gravely. And I say, why is it that in Portland and in other places like Minneapolis, why is it nothing happened with them and they actually cause death and destruction at levels not seen before, blah, blah, blah. So there's Trump talking about his J6 pardons, doubling down on that take as well. We got a lot to say, by the way, about this J6 report that just came out later in tonight's show. The last thing I want to point out here, so this is reporting from Eric Daugherty. I still don't know how to say his Daugherty. Am I saying that right? But anyways, he says, according to Time, Donald Trump, this is just interesting information. Donald Trump remained opposed to mail and early voting during the election until a broad effort to convince him by Susan Wiles, James Blair, and Lara Trump. Former Pennsylvania GOP chair Rob Gleason then told Trump, they don't want to wait, but you gotta tell them it's okay. You gotta give them permission. Time magazine says, from then on, Trump promoted absentee and early voting and directed the RNC to launch a mobilization drive targeting mail-in voters. And I just want to say that really quickly because to these three individuals who were pushing Trump to embrace early voting, that is Susan Wiles, James Blair, and Lara Trump, they deserve a lot of credit, honestly, for Trump's victory, right? Because I've been saying this, I was saying this the whole election cycle. I was saying this really before we even got to general election season. You have to actually encourage early voting. You don't need to be big on the mail-in voting, okay? And still, by the numbers, Republican voters this time around chose to vote in person. But the big reason I said is that, you know, it turns out actually the GOP does have a lot of low propensity voters out there. This is something I was saying way back during the election, okay? I said over and over again in all these freaking videos, you can go watch them, that you need to basically open up the electorate for them. Because as it turns out, when you have a low propensity, we'll call it like the lazier voter out there, but that does support Trump. And by the way, in this Trump era of politics, it turns out that is a lot of Republican voters because the electorate has changed, the realignment has happened, etc. That, you know, when you only focus on election day and you only let people vote on election day, what happens to the lower propensity? We'll call them lazier voters. There's a like 50-50 chance that they show up, maybe they don't. But when you open up their options, when you say to them, you can early vote, you can mail in vote, a lot of Republicans don't like that. That's the thing. But that is the current system we have, right? Then, you know, you that way you can actually beat the Democrats at turnout. What was I saying the whole time? This election is not about persuasion. It's truly going to come down to turnout, turnout, turnout. It's clearly Susan Wiles, James Blair, and Lara Trump agreed here. And that deserves big credit for Trump's victory. And I did notice this even on the campaign trail, right? Initially, Trump, not the biggest fan of the early voting, the mail-in voting. Eventually, I was getting flyers in the mail from the Trump campaign that said, vote early, you know, it's okay to vote early, whatever. Look, that was highly successful. Now, you can say what you will about the system, right? The system should change in some regards. That's true. But I did say, and this was maybe a bold take at the time, the current kind of open voting system where early voting is so accessible actually can favor Republicans if we approach it correctly, because Republicans have a lot of low propensity voters that they don't know about. That's obviously what happened on November 5th. And, you know, you can make a lot of arguments about fixing the election system. We still got to really get tough on things like voter ID, etc. But I think embracing early voting, especially early in-person voting, is something that the GOP should do going forward. It objectively helps us. It is, you know, relatively secure, you know, based on what we know. You know, it doesn't have some of the same issues as other stuff we may talk about. Anyways, that was interesting, though. Again, a big credit, by the way, for Trump's victory, I think, in many ways. Okay, but anyways, that's about all I have to say about the Time Magazine thing. Yeah, it's cool. Look at the contrast, by the way. So this was Time Magazine a couple months before the election. In trouble. It's over for Donald Trump like it's been for the past decade. You see him here in the golf cart sinking into the sand. And then now he's Time Person of the Year. Wow. Incredible, guys. All right. Well, anyways, with that said, guys, let me check the chat really quickly. Okay. Guys, make sure you hit that like button on the stream. Feel free to super chat with your thoughts. But moving on here a little bit. So we mentioned the J6 pardons a little bit. Let's now talk about today's news. So apparently a Justice Department watchdog has released a report on January 6th addressing the question of whether or not feds were involved in J6. They were there at the Capitol. They were instigating, doing whatever they were doing. And to make a long story short here, guys, MAGA, the Trump supporters, are completely vindicated on this. Turns out we were right? There were feds that day. However, that is not how the mainstream media is reporting. In fact, they're saying the opposite. So let's kind of delve here into the facts, and we will show you blatantly why, we say it a million times. I'm not giving you any revolutionary take, but you do not despise the media enough. So here's the reporting from CNN on the J6 report that came out today. So they said, no undercover FBI agents were at the U.S. Capitol during the insurrection, a Justice Department watchdog has found, rejecting claims by allies of Donald Trump that the violence on J6 2021 was provoked by federal agents. Okay. So that doesn't sound good, right? I mean, we got debunked. Oh no, that's so bad. Except when you actually read what this report says, okay, you'll see how dishonest this is. Okay, so what does it actually say? It says that the FBI had 26 confidential human sources, aka informants, right? Federal informants at the Capitol on January 6th, including 4 who entered the Capitol building and 13 who entered the quote-unquote restricted area around the Capitol, according to a just-released DOJ Inspector General report. Let's get into reading this. We determined that 26 of the confidential human sources, again, informants, that's what they are, informants, who were in D.C. on J6 in connection with the events, entered the Capitol during the riot. So 4 of them entered the Capitol during the riot. An additional 13 entered the restricted area around the Capitol, which was a security perimeter established in preparation for the electoral certification. And 9 entered an area, neither entered a restricted area, nor entered the Capitol or otherwise engaged in illegal activity. None of the informants who entered the Capitol or restricted area have been prosecuted to date. It's very interesting. A couple people come to mind, but I'm not going to say it. The WFO did not know that a total of 26 informants would be in DC for the events of J6 because only 4 field offices had informed, blah, 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 blah. The OEG, I should say, Inspector General, determined that many of these 26 informants had provided information relevant to the J6 electoral certification before the event, and that a few informants also provided information about the riot as it occurred. In addition, FBI field offices collected CHS reporting relevant, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so again, what's the point here? There were 26 FBI informants, people working and cooperating with the feds, okay? In the colloquial street term, we just call those people feds, right? They were working with the FBI. They were informants, etc. in the Capitol on J6. Contrast that with a CNN reporting that is saying no undercover FBI agents were at the Capitol, completely failing to mention the fact that you had 26 informants. So how freaking dishonest are they being? Okay, the argument here is, well, yeah, the FBI had informants running around DC that day, but according to this report that we know of, there were no actual, employed FBI agents on the FBI payroll. You only had people who were working with and cooperating and snitching on behalf of the FBI. So that means there were no feds in the Capitol that day, right? Right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Because the MAGA argument, the Trump kind of supporter argument, has always been that there were people. We didn't really draw this distinction of whether they're agents or informants. The point is, there were feds at the Capitol that day involved in the events. What does the Inspector General report say? There were feds at the Capitol that day involved in the events. Oh, but they were informants. They were not official agents. What's the freaking difference? See what we're saying here? Okay. But not just CNN. A lot, like every single mainstream media headline has been, there were no FBI agents. There were no FBI agents. I guess according to the report, correct, there were no agents, but there were informants. Again, we're talking about people working with the FBI. Colloquially, they were referred to as feds. There are still feds. It's just so ridiculous. So let's be clear about that, right? There were feds in the Capitol on J6. There were. You can say they were informants and not agents. It's the same argument. Point is, there were feds there. There are people cooperating with the FBI. They were undercover. Whether they were informants or agents, still you had that. And when it comes to some of the events that were arguably provocative, right? It was kind of helping to incite or egg on some of the violence that day. Yeah, you had informants in the crowd. What do you want us to say, right? It's just ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. By the way, guys, on a similar note, in terms of just pure federal government lack of transparency, this was reported by Jesse Waters. Take a listen to the information that just came out today about the second Trump assassination attempt, right? So this is the one that took place at the Trump International Golf Course with that Ryan Ruth guy. It's insane. Okay, it's completely insane.
We got two new revelations from the Trump assassination task force. According to their report, the Secret Service agent who spotted Ryan Ruth in the bushes outside Trump's golf course was only 5 feet away when he opened fire and missed him. Not once, not twice, 6 times.
So this is what we have going on at Secret Service. He was 5 feet away. He missed him 6 times. This is a Secret Service agent, okay? I'm pretty sure someone with very little firearms training who maybe goes to the range a couple times probably can hit a target 5 feet away. He missed them 6 times. And this guy's employed by Secret Service that's supposed to be like the elite of like people in our government. Really?
He missed them 6 times from 5 feet. How does a trained agent who passed the firearms test miss a target away, 5 feet away? That's not all. The report says the Secret Service found out at 2:30 in the morning that Trump would be golfing later that day, but they didn't secure the course, allowing Ruth to camp out for 12 hours before anyone saw him. Meanwhile, Ruth appeared in federal court this morning, and his legal team signaling they're going to go with the insanity defense. How convenient. Ruth's public defender said he has had multiple meetings with a mental health expert while in jail, and the witnesses who saw him before the arrest say he was hallucinating and delusional.
I wonder where I've heard this one before, okay? You know, someone can fill in what I'm talking about. It starts with M, ends with A. It's like we hear this so often, right? With these attempted assassinations of politicians. It's so strange, so strange.
Of course. Prosecutors also revealed that Ruth has been doing a lot more writing behind bars than initially reported. Ruth has written nearly 40 letters to news outlets in an attempt to persuade them that he's an honorable guy. But they were intercepted before they reached their targets. We also know that only 17 of the 18 cell phones found in Ruth's possession belong to him. Why does he have 18 cell phones? And wait, he has 17. So who owns the last phone? And why did Ruth have it?
Great questions. All great questions. You just faced an assassination attempt. Keep that in mind. They did not secure the perimeter of the golf course for 12 hours. The Secret Service agent is so incompetent, he can't hit a target from 5 feet away. And then on top of that, this weird cell phone thing, I don't know. So here's the thing, okay? Obviously, we have DOJ, the Department of Government Efficiency. I think we should also open a Department of Government Accountability, because this type of stuff is ridiculous, okay? Like, the FBI still cannot answer, like, why they had federal informants in the crowd that day. What was the intent? What were they doing? You have Secret Service, infamously either extremely incompetent or extremely malicious. They're both equally damning. Okay, there's just no excuse for it. Unbelievable, right? It's just unbelievable. So, you know, that's what's going on right now in our federal government. Nothing new, all right? Over at the Pentagon, they keep failing audits. You know, I think they failed 6 or 7 straight audits. It's all just so ridiculous. And of course, When you turn on mainstream media, what do they say? How dare you question our institutions, our sacred democracy, and our bureaucracies and all this stuff? They do such good work for the American people. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, you have the Pentagon who can't, again, pass an audit 6-7 times in a row, but they're so important for our national defense, guys. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. With that said, guys, let's move on here a little bit. Actually, let's do this story first because it's pretty hilarious. So apparently, Whoopi Goldberg is very pissed at RFK. Actually, let me pull up the clip because I lost it. But Whoopi Goldberg got pretty pissed today at RFK Jr. after RFK Jr. had some choice comments on America's obesity epidemic and weight loss drugs. Yeah, I'm being serious about that. Stop laughing, okay? Be nice, be nice. But that is what happened, yes. RFK Jr. talked about obesity, and then Whoopi Goldberg got mad about it. Okay, so really quickly, let's get into this. Firstly, for context, here is what RFK Jr. had to say, and then we'll get into what Whoopi Goldberg said in response. And again, okay, stop laughing. It's not funny. It's not funny. But here you go.
Are you? Look, I mean, are you just anti per se a GOP-1? You're going to analyze it because I always remember you as an analytics person, not a person who's just gut.
So that's a question.
Well, how do you feel about GOP-1 drugs? Do you think that they are net positive?
I think that the best thing is the first line of response should be lifestyle. It should be eating well, making sure that you don't get obese, and that those GLP drugs are, have a place.
Well, I find a lot of people want to put words in your mouth. A lot of people want to say, you know what, this guy is not in favor of all vaccines. That's just untrue.
Yeah, that's untrue.
Good. I wanted to know that because I think that I'm tired of people lying about you, okay? All right, see you later. How are you?
Okay, so there you had RFK Jr. saying that when it comes to GLP-1 drugs, right? Those are some of these weight loss drugs that you hear about, throughout the media and on TV and all that stuff. He comes out and says that he's not completely against them. However, the first response to obesity should be diet and exercise, right? Diet and lifestyle. Pretty non-controversial in my opinion. I think RFK has some legitimate points about that. The first solution to obesity, yes, diet and lifestyle. Fix the food, fix the exercise. So why is Whoopi Goldberg upset about that? Again, stop laughing. But here's what she had to say. It's not funny. It's not fun. Here's what she had to say in response to RFK Jr. talking about the obesity epidemic. Again, we're not making any jokes about it. We're just showing you what she said. Okay, here you go.
This isn't just about food.
No, it's not.
This is sometimes people
Genetics.
are born genetically larger.
Agreed. I didn't mean to
No, I know you didn't. But I want to say this to
RFK.
So people are born genetically larger. That is Whoopi Goldberg's excuse. Basically, the root cause of the American obesity epidemic is genetic. Okay, keep that in mind. We'll address it in a second. Let's keep going.
RFK, that's his name. Because you're setting folks up for shame.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying. Maybe you don't know you're doing. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say you don't know, you don't realize what you do to people when you say stuff like that, because it doesn't work for everybody. And I'm going to show you, sir, because I weighed close to 300 less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And without the Mounjaro, this would not have happened. There you go.
Take it off. Take it off.
So what exactly is her point? RFK didn't say he wants to outlaw the weight loss drugs. He said they should not be the first thing we run to, right? Like, a lot of the common thinking in American medicine is you have any problem, don't even try to fix it. Let's pay Big Pharma and they'll give you this drug and don't worry about if it's the right thing to do, if it has side effects, if it's not good for your long-term health. Just take this drug, okay? And then Whoopi's response is, oh, well, I took a weight loss drug and it worked for me. Kind of missing the point there. But, there you have Whoopi Goldberg, again, mad that RFK Jr. addressed the root cause of the obesity epidemic. Is there a layer of something there? Not commenting on it, just saying.
There you go. And I try to tell everybody, listen, this worked for me. This may work for y'all. You cannot take it out of people's hands if it can help. Because if we can keep people healthy, if we can get rid of diabetes, if we can get rid of all of the things cardiovascular, what's wrong with trying to do that?
Nothing.
You're wrong on this, R.
Also, the side effects are not horrible. But what does Kimberly
Really? I don't know about that.
Guilfoyle think of it? That's what I want to know.
She's going to agree she got a body now.
Yeah. Where does Elon Musk come and RFK Jr., two medical experts? Who are they?
Elon's right on this.
Elon's right on.
Yeah, you're not a medical expert either, Joy Behar. Okay, so to address what Whoopi Goldberg is saying, let's get into this. First and foremost, she argues that obesity is a genetic thing. Yeah, I'm open to, in some very rare cases, that's a possibility, right? Some people are born with really bad metabolism. I would still argue that you can control that through diet and exercise, even though it's significantly more difficult, maybe, but fair enough. The problem is, the reason that argument does not ring true is because if there really is this widespread genetic issue of obesity in America, my question is, why does that not exist in other countries? How come Europe, you don't have massive numbers of people who are genetically predisposed to be obese? How come it doesn't exist in Asia, in Africa, in literally basically anywhere besides the United States? It's clearly because something is wrong with, like RFK says, our diet and lifestyle that is causing mass obesity, okay? So now let's get into that. All right, first and foremost, it's objectively true that in the vast majority of cases with obesity, diet and lifestyle and exercise are the first solution. I don't understand what's so crazy about saying that. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's kind of the more difficult option. Now, RFK does simultaneously make the argument, which I agree with, which is that even though people should take personal responsibility for cleaning up their own life and their lifestyle, objectively, it's true. The food system in America is so bad. It does kind of, yes, in that sense, predispose people to be obese because it's like, unless you're like super involved in it and you're actually reading all the ingredients and everything, you're gonna end up probably obese, and other people in other countries don't have to deal with that. So yes, we should clean up the food system, and I think if nothing else changed, if we just made the food better, you would see obesity massively go down. And that is, by the way, the argument that RFK has made for a very long time, right? You shouldn't have to prescribe people weight loss drugs, anti-obesity drugs, if we didn't have a country with so much mass obesity. And we could avoid having a country with mass obesity by cleaning up the food while simultaneously encouraging a healthier lifestyle. Okay. With that said, Whoopi Goldberg claims that the weight loss drugs worked for her. Okay. RFK Jr. in that very clip did not say he wants to ban the weight loss drugs. All he said is that people should stop essentially running to them as the first solution instead of fixing diet and exercise, which I think is objectively true, right? I think when it comes to things like, type 2 diabetes and obesity, you could make the argument for some people in some isolated cases that it's going to be too hard for them to lose weight fast enough. And, obesity is like the #1 killer in America. So maybe despite the fact that these weight loss drugs do have side effects, it's worth the risk to reduce the risk of obesity. So that's fair. Okay. I totally get that. But the idea that you shouldn't try diet and exercise first, insane. Like that's just delusional. That's crazy, number one. And number two, you also see a lot of cases in this country these days where people who are not even obese, right, are just taking Ozempic and abusing it because they want to get skinnier and they don't want to try diet and exercise and they're just self-conscious. Like that is a problem, right? I think the RFK argument is not that weight loss drugs don't work for anyone, right? Ozempic is meant to treat specifically type 2 diabetes. Maybe there's a legitimate application there, but we are overprescribing this stuff. Number one, because pharma is corrupt and making money off of it, but also number two, because you have an obesity epidemic in America that should not exist to begin with, and we should clean that up and fix that. So Whoopi, again, first of all, arguing against the total straw man. And then secondly, Whoopi, what is wrong with saying we should try to, in natural ways, before you just hand drugs to everyone, try to reduce the obesity epidemic by cleaning up the food and encouraging healthy lifestyles. Why is Whoopi Goldberg so personally offended or triggered by that? I don't know. I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks there. But that was the exchange between Whoopi and RFK Jr. She just chooses to make everything about herself. You know, RFK was not insinuating that she is fat. He didn't even mention her. He wasn't talking about her. But, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. It is what it is. Apparently, encouraging diet and exercise is bad. And this take is coming from none other than Whoopi Goldberg herself. All right. Very interesting, right? All right. With that said, all right, let's move on from that story. Just kind of hysterical, honestly, in my opinion. Really quickly, I do want to address, by the way, guys, make sure you leave a like on the stream. Feel free to super chat. But really quickly, I do want to address the United Healthcare CEO and that whole situation because, you know, we did not have a chance to really talk about this on stream because we have not been streaming. And, you know, I'm not really here to tell you anything new about any of it, but I will say this really quickly. Okay, so some quick thoughts on the whole situation. First of all, objectively, okay, anyone who's celebrating the fact that a guy got executed in the middle of New York City is crazy. Okay, you shouldn't be celebrating something like that. It should be pretty easy to say we condemn the violence that happened here. You know, you should not be like Taylor Lorenz, who's saying you felt joy in that moment and you're saying it publicly. Like, you just sound crazy, right? And this is not how you achieve reform. It did not achieve anything. Arguably, you can make the case it might make the system worse. It's not something that should be celebrated, obviously, and that's insane. And I think that goes without saying. You have a guy who has a wife, has children, who they just lost their father, and you're celebrating that because I don't know. They're just kind of crazy. They sound crazy, right? But on the flip side, I do want to also say that the response from, I won't say conservatives, because I think a lot of conservatives agree with this, but more so like establishment media as a whole, whether it's Republican leaning or Democrat leaning, the response to say that, okay, because of this, there are no problems with the healthcare system. Everything is fine. In fact, healthcare in America is fantastic. And how dare you question that? And how dare people be upset about that? Equally, I think is just as crazy as the people who are celebrating the killer, right? Like, they're both insane. And let me say that because I saw a headline today from the Arizona Central newspaper, which I believe is actually kind of like a more Democrat-leaning newspaper, if I'm not mistaken. But they ran this headline, a opinion article, saying that, like, now is not the time to be questioning our healthcare system or criticizing our healthcare system. It's like, obviously, there are criticisms of the healthcare system. What, we're not allowed to say them now, you know? Now, I will say this was totally expected. And this is another reason why I say, you know, this is why you don't just go execute CEOs. And it's such a bad way to address a real problem, because this is the response you get from the media. How dare you criticize the healthcare system, right? I saw another publication essentially say that the, excuse me, that the United CEO is the actual working class hero, and Luigi Mangione is not. But okay, fair enough. You want to say Luigi Mangione, not a real working class hero, but now we're praising healthcare CEOs. We're making them like the heroes of the working class and the heroes of America. That's also equally completely tone deaf. So, excuse me there. Sorry. We're getting the coughs are coming back. I'm still sick, by the way, just to be clear. So anyways, just wanted to say that, and let's really quickly move on now to just, this is kind of my take on it, is objectively, yes, the American healthcare system is very broken. I think it's tone deaf for anyone, whether they're on the left or right, to sit there and say that everything is fine. Obviously, everything is not fine, okay? People, now, obviously, again, you know, assassinations are not the answer. But people are pissed off for legitimate reasons. How does that translate to Trump? Well, I think in this case, okay, so you have the left, right, using this as an opportunity to push universal health care and socialized medicine and all these crazy radical reforms, or I shouldn't say reforms, but like radical new ideas that are not going to work and they're not going to improve the state of healthcare in this country. However, I do think that, you know, it's funny, it's become something of a meme for Trump to say that he has concepts of a plan when it comes to healthcare. He keeps saying this, concepts of a plan. But I do think that that is actually something you can work with and make yourself incredibly popular and actually deliver positive change to the American people. Because I think in contrast to the left, who is constantly, suggesting these very radical, extremist, I would argue, reforms to our healthcare system, what if you're Donald Trump, why don't you come in and say, let's try some very common sense, easy reforms to the healthcare system that won't radically restructure anything. It won't require a lot of political capital to achieve, but we can incrementally make things better in our healthcare system for the American people. Couple ideas I have there, and I think these are things that Trump should pursue on the legislative agenda. Really just easy ways to bring down premiums, if not slightly, for people, as well as maybe improve the coverage. Conservatives have talked a long time about allowing insurance companies to compete across state lines, right? So if you're in California and there's not a lot of good healthcare insurance options, you allow the competition to go to Arizona. You can buy healthcare insurance from another state, right? Because a big problem you've had, by the way, because of Obamacare, let's be clear about that. A big problem you've had is the monopolization of the insurance companies, and that's a big reason why the premiums partly have gone up. I would argue it's not really the root cause of the problem, right? I think that the real reason why healthcare is so expensive in America isn't even the insurance companies. It's because the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies are charging these exorbitant rates for people because they essentially have the real monopoly. And whether it's your insurance company paying those bills or you personally out of pocket paying those bills, it's ridiculous, right? It's like $3,000 for one dose of a certain pharmaceutical drug, or if you stay in the ER for a couple days, it's like $50,000. That's a monopoly. That's the real problem. That's why healthcare premiums are going up in price. They're getting worse. Insurance companies are denying claims because they're not even the root of the problem. They're just the middleman. When you look at the hospitals, the doctor's offices, the pharmaceutical companies, they're charging such ridiculous rates. That's driving up the cost for everyone else down that sort of chain there. But again, easy way to fix that, probably with the insurance companies, do competition across state lines. As for the hospitals, as for the pharmaceutical companies, I would also say price transparency, right? This is something that Trump sort of pushed a little bit in the first term. I think he should go all the way with. When you stay in the ER or you have a surgery done or something, you should have price transparency. It should be clear, here's how much it costs and here's how much every single service is. And it's a flat rate. It's a consistent rate. This way, hospitals can't just add a bunch of things to your bill, which they do all the time, all the freaking time. A bunch of random things to the bill. Let's just charge this and don't ask too many questions, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes people have to go back and argue with the hospitals. That should not be a thing. Price transparency. I would even say, right, this maybe is a more kind of Democrat idea, but I actually think it's pro-capitalism. It's pro-competition. The Biden administration tried to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices, but they basically caved to the very interests that they were arguing against, and they didn't really do it. They only did it for 10 drugs or something. I would say, yeah, that's actually pro-capitalism. That's pro-market. I'm fine with that. But again, I think really we should try some easy things, not a lot of political capital, that can improve, if not slightly, the state of healthcare for people. And I think this kind of transitions to a bigger picture direction I think the Republican Party should go in, which is when you sort of break down the mentality of a conservative versus a progressive, right? So the instinct of the progressive is they see a system and they want to just demolish it, right? Let's make radical change. They're very idealistic in their thinking. Let's make radical change. Let's do, Medicare for all, because back in 2020, you may remember this, both Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris said that they wanted to outlaw private health insurance. Let's do some crazy change to the system. And that's not what people want. And that's not what we should be doing, right? But I think the conservative sort of natural instinct is more pragmatic. It's more sort of grounded in reality, which is, yeah, we're not going to magically fix this system overnight. There is no one easy magic wand you can wave, but let's reform it, right? Let's try to incrementally make the system a little bit better. And the reason I kind of bring that up is because I think especially on an issue like healthcare, the Republican Party so far, right, their natural instinct has been, okay, so the Democrats, what they do is they point out, they diagnose a real problem. For instance, the healthcare system is broken. And then in order to do that, they propose a very radical, crazy solution to it that will not work. And secondly, they'll never realistically get it done. So what the Republican Party has historically done is just deny that the problem exists because the Democrats are calling it out. That's the wrong solution. I think what we should really be doing is explaining that, okay, the Democrats are like these crazy radical idealists, but the GOP is the party of action. The GOP is the party that will like actually do realistic things and actually accomplish them and get them done. I think on healthcare, you have a great opportunity to do something like that. Again, are you going to radically fix the system? No. Are the Democrats in 2028 still going to say the system is still broken? Yes. But what an argument it is on that debate stage to say, okay, Democrats, you can criticize us for our healthcare reforms not going far enough. However, we actually did them. We actually did something. You guys had 4 years in the White House under Biden. You did absolutely nothing, right? So the GOP is the party of action. Democrats are all talk and they're like these crazy idealists. I think that's actually a great opportunity to take. And I think that's what Trump should do with healthcare. He doesn't have to propose Trump care. He doesn't have to propose some crazy plan that's like really big or long. No, just try to do some small tweaks to make the system better. I think you can take it in a very positive direction by doing that. And I think that's what, honestly, we should be doing. Okay. Again, easy reforms, like just small things, make it a little bit better for people and be honest about that, right? Don't sell people some like false dream of idealism like the left does. You could actually be pretty popular if you did things instead of just talked about things. Okay, with that said, last story here. We got to move on to Tim Walz because he is back, okay? And he's been making a lot of really awkward videos we'll talk about in a second. Firstly, let me read the super chat. Chris for $5, thank you very much, says, I have been thoroughly convinced that the dumbest people go to Ivy League schools. Goes to show that education isn't so much about being intelligent. Thank you for the $5, Chris. I think our entire education system is not really designed to reward intelligence. It's more so designed to reward, I don't know if you want to call it conformity or whatever you want to call it. You could say diversity, whatever. But, you know, I know so many cases of people who have like a 1600, like a perfect SAT score. So it's like in the 1%, like they're extremely brilliant, smart people. But they get rejected from an Ivy League school because their extracurriculars are not good enough. It's like, oh, I didn't volunteer in some fake stupid club and the other person did. Therefore, the person who did some nonsense, oh, they were creative, they got in. It's like, what? You know? Or because, you know, someone was black and they have a 1300. So the Asian who gets a 1600 or the white person who gets a 1600 is like, well, we got to have our diverse. It's just totally insane, right? And, you know, true story there. Not to like talk about myself, okay? Nor did I want to go to an Ivy League school, but I will bring myself up as an anecdotal example here, okay? So I got a 1550 on the SAT. I was a National Merit Scholar finalist, which is having to do with like the PSAT score. Like one of two people in my entire like local area school district who got the National Merit finalist. And, you know, unsurprisingly, right? Every single Ivy League school I did not get into. With the extracurriculars of like, I was doing this political thing since I was, 15 years old. So I'm not here to like cry about that. I didn't want to go to those schools, but I applied just to like, I was actually applied because I was curious. I was like, I wonder if I would get in. I did not get in, newsflash. But you can fully imagine someone who has terrible grades. They're not smart, but they started some type of fake like neoliberal nonprofit. Oh my gosh, welcome to Harvard. Welcome to Harvard, David Hogg, with your 1230 SAT score or whatever he got, is something like that. Yeah. Typical. Thank you for the 5, though. I appreciate it very much, Chris. Feel free to super chat, guys. We'll talk to the chat in the final minutes here in a second. But really quickly here, let me move on. So this is Tim Walz. This is the current state of him. All right, let's take a listen. Here you go.
Hey, Hope. Mom and Dad here.
Hey, Hoper girl.
Finishing decorating the family tree in the living room or in our family room here. And it's all of the handmade ornaments over the years. So we were thinking of you, and I just wanted to show you a couple. We were cracking up about a couple of these. So I'll try it. Here you go. Take a look at this.
Look at those pretty sparklies you
2005.
down there.
Here's Children Are Like Snowflakes. Each
Look at those pretty sparklies you put on there. Guys, we dodged such a bullet on November 5th. Could you imagine this? I mean, forget the first family, right? Kamala and Doug. That was bad enough. Could you imagine this being the second family? Look at those pretty sparklies you had on there. Glenn Walz. Okay, Tim Walz has a lot of his own issues. Can we also point out, though, Glenn Walz, his wife, is literally, like, insane. Okay? Like she talks like a deranged... I don't want to say... I don't want to say it, but, like, it kind of reminds me of, you know, certain people that they make Netflix documentaries about. Because she's so crazy, right? I was sitting there smelling the burning tires after BLM. Look at those pretty sparklies you put on there. It's out of a freaking horror movie. Unbelievable. We almost had these crazy psychopath lunatics in the White House. Unbelievable.
One is unique.
Right there. You're on a little reindeer at Roxanne's house.
All right. And here's Gus, your brother.
There, he made us that one for basketball.
When he was dunking. So anyway, hey, Hope, we got the final one. You're going to love this. Toilet paper roll angel.
You made it. Do you see your little hands here?
Little hands on the back.
Are the angel wings.
So here we go. On the tree.
Not on a real tree, but on this family tree.
She is crazy. Okay, Glenn, look, let's play that again, okay? Like, this is literally like a horror movie character right here.
Wings.
So here we go. Paper roll angel.
You made it. Do you see your little hands here?
Little hands on the back.
Are the angel wings.
So here we go. On.
Look at her eyes. She is insane. Look at Glenn Walz's eyes. Literal crazy person. Oh my God.
So here we go. On the tree.
Not on a real tree, but on this family tree. Oh, Dad got it on there.
It's so
Joy
creepy.
To the world.
All right. There you go. I know you're missing your Griswold family. Decorate your house for Christmas. We're thinking of you. Love you, Hope. Bye.
And to think, by the way, guys, that the Democrats chose Tim Walz, and this is the second family, because they thought that, oh, this will appeal to normal white people in the Midwest. Yeah, Tim Walz is just such a folksy white guy. He's Coach Walz. What a good guy. They're teachers. He was a high school football coach. And then they said it was a volunteer, an assistant, whatever. Coach Walz. What a great guy. These people are so freaking strange. Like, that video is genuinely creepy. Okay, it's genuinely creepy. Especially his wife. I mean, his wife makes him look like an extremely normal person. Okay, this is they're literally like one of the strangest, oddest, most creepy families in politics, frankly. And my gosh, like, look at her. Look at her. Look at that stare. It's out of a horror movie. It's literally out of a horror movie. Unbelievable, guys. So yeah, really dodged a bullet there on November 5th. It does go to show you a lot about the Democrat thinking. I don't know how they ever thought like Tim Walz was such a, like, because, you know, the Democrat consultants knew, okay, Kamala comes off as kind of fake. She's from California. She's out of touch. We need a Midwestern folksy white guy who can go to the Rust Belt and truly relate to people. And he's such a normal guy. Oh my gosh, he's a normal guy. That's what you thought was a normal guy? And a normal woman? Okay, literal like crazy eyes. Look at her. Unbelievable. And that's what we almost had in the White House. Okay, but thank God we didn't. And you know, just crazy.
Griswold family.
All right, with that said, guys, that wraps up all the main stories we had tonight. Let me really quickly make sure there's nothing I missed. But we'll read super chats and regular chat here in a second. So guys, feel free to super chat with your thoughts, comment your thoughts. Apparently Harry Sisson, by the way, is back. Okay, let's see what he has to say. Oh, interesting.
All of you Trump supporters out there, you got played so badly by Donald Trump. His entire campaign promise to you was we're going to lower prices. Now, just today, he said it's going to be very hard to lower grocery prices. After saying he could do it like that, it would be so easy. And Donald Trump...
You look at the full context, that's not what he was saying. He said, we're going to do it, but, you know, the supply chain, his core promise was always that we're going to lower the price of energy, which is going to lower everything else. Okay, just to be clear. But anyways, Harry, really quickly, let me just say that, you know, you're the same person who thought Joe Biden was an amazing candidate, and you said he's going to win. He could beat Donald Trump. He's totally fit and capable. And then you thought Kamala was going to crush Donald Trump. Tim Walz was so amazing. And then now all of a sudden you're saying we got played. I don't know. Just some thoughts there. Okay, with that said, let's read chat here really quickly. I will end the stream a little bit sooner tonight because my voice still is not all that great. Okay, it's being strained here. We had a literal man cold. Okay, it was terrible last week. Let me just say. All right, probably the sickest I've been in like 5 years at least, since high school for sure. I mean that was unbelievable. Okay. So anyways, let's take a look at our chat. Thomas says, "Hey Vince, can you please pray for me? For I have been going through some spiritual warfare recently, so please, I need Christian encouragement." Yes, Thomas, absolutely. I will definitely keep you in my prayers, and hopefully the rest of the chat does the same. All right, so God bless you. Best of luck to you for sure. Little Harry Sisson needs a lot of copium. It's not working, son. You know, it's let me say about him, okay? So there was something I saw him say the other day. It was just unbelievable. Here's the thing about Harry, okay? Look, Harry, you have a chance to get out while you still can. Because this guy is like locked in the box of still being a DNC shill, right? Everything the Democrat establishment does is good. Obama is great. Pelosi is great. The DNC is totally ran by amazing, competent people. And it's like, I wonder if this guy sees the writing on the wall. Because eventually, it might not be 2028. Maybe it'll be 32. Maybe it'll be 36. Eventually, because they keep losing, there will be something of a mini revolution in the Democrat Party, and the party's going to realign. It's going to change. And it's like, Harry, you're attaching yourself to a sinking ship, which is the current Democrat establishment. It's going to go down eventually, okay? It might go down in 2028. Maybe it'll take 2 election cycles. It usually takes 2. So 2032. And buddy, after years of shilling for the DNC and all these people that are, again, on their way out in terms of their political careers, do you really, you're what? How old is he? 22 years old? Yeah, 22 years old. You're still young. Buddy, get out while you still can, okay? Get out while you don't have to keep shilling the establishment over and over and over again. Again, the writing there is on the wall, buddy, okay? Get out. Like, I'm not saying become conservative or a Trump supporter, but at the very least, you know, someone like young like that, having witnessed everything that has failed about the Democrat Party, you would think if he was smart, he would start to say, okay, we need like a revolution in this party. We need to change the leadership. We need to change the messaging. We need to kind of flip the table upside down because we lost to Donald Trump twice. It's not working. But instead, no. Instead, it's like, oh, please, you know, Obama, please say hi to me. But Kamala's so great. Biden, yay. I don't understand it. I don't understand. It's like you can see, I think deep down, he is smart enough to see that it's a sinking ship. He just doesn't care because he's like, he enjoys, I guess, the current status he has within the party. But, you know, I don't know if the future leadership of the Democrat Party, whenever they kind of course correct, is really going to want people like Harry Sisson at the table. Okay, just saying. Just a thought there. I don't know. But anyways. Chris for $5, thank you very much, says, a lot of my family members keep saying Trump is going to involve us in Venezuela. I don't think that's likely. What are your thoughts? Thank you for the 5, Chris. No, I don't think so at all. I mean, this is interesting. So, according to rumors, I don't know if this is true. This is sort of like, you know, anonymous sources, what happened in politics. But apparently, in the first Trump term, he floated the idea of military intervention in Venezuela, and who talked him out of that was actually Trump's Secretary of State, incoming one, Marco Rubio. That's the story. I don't know if it's true. That's the story. But, you know, I think Trump, especially this time around, no new wars was a big thing of his. You got Tulsi Gabbard, you got RFK Jr., Elon Musk, a lot of people in the cabinet that don't want to see it. I think Trump naturally... I think he's actually become less hawkish throughout the years, because you could say in the first term, a lot of neocons were around to influence him, but especially when you look at the campaign messaging in 2024, you can tell that Trump sort of, even if he flirted with some neocon things the first time, is returning more to certain isolationist instincts. Now, if China, for instance, tries to make a move on Taiwan, could you see those instincts change? Maybe with Iran. I hope that doesn't happen. But I really don't think that at least military intervention in Venezuela is coming anytime soon. Now, what you could see is an increase of sanctions on Venezuela, right? Because Trump has always been critical of that. He wants American energy to come from America. Throughout the whole election cycle, he was criticizing the fact that the Biden administration was buying the poor quality oil from Venezuela. He was calling it, the tar. So I definitely think he will stop buying oil from Venezuela, but I don't think that you'll see military intervention. Like, that's just not happening, in my opinion. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on here. Tim Hunt says that woman was looking at something 3 inches and 4 miles away simultaneously. Yeah, she's incredibly creepy. Okay, incredibly creepy. What else can we say? Strange person. And that was almost going to be the second lady. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? All right, let's see here. What else we got going on in the chat? Speaking of that woman, what the hell does not on our real tree mean? You mean your literal family keepsakes aren't real enough? Okay, not exactly sure what was saying there, but yeah, they are creepy. Okay, yeah, the Walz family, I don't even know what to say. All right, again, we objectively just dodged a major bullet there. Trump got a lot more isolationist this time around. He's always been using tariffs as a leverage, though. Yeah, absolutely, right? I think when you even look at a lot of the actions in the first Trump term and rhetoric back then versus what he was saying in 2024, you can tell that certain instincts in him have changed. I think the people around him have changed. The first time around, I think he had way too many neocons in his ear. But the fact that there was such a public fallout after the 2020 election, I should say, it's important to remember. One big thing with Trump is loyalty, right? And objectively, all of the neocons and warhawks who maybe were okay with Trump the first time, after 2020, they were like, we're done with you. They spit him out. The only people that stayed around largely are isolationist, more America first leaning people. So that's another positive thing in my eyes that says, I think the foreign policy instincts of the second Trump term will be a lot better. Now, we got to see what happens, obviously. And, there are some neocons in the second cabinet, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as the first time around. And you got a lot of great people to balance that out, like Tulsi Gabbard, like some others. So I think we'll be fine largely. But anyways, let's see. I think Trump needs to get rid of NAFTA. Well, he did get rid of NAFTA, actually, in the first term. That was one of the major accomplishments there. But all right, we'll read chat here for a couple more minutes, and then I gotta go because my voice is dying. Okay, still been pretty sick here. Let's see. Poor Harry. Almost like another dumb Harry from England. Yeah, it's really unfortunate to have the name Harry and have to share it with Prince Harry and Harry Sisson. Oh, and by the way, Harry from One Direction, right? That guy. So the Harry slander is real these days. Okay, so shout out to all the good Harrys out there, but yeah, you're not in good company with famous people in this country and in the world, I should say, for sure. Thomas says also, hey Vince, what do you think of the idea that the only culturally and politically progressive states that are left are Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Massachusetts, since California, New York, and Illinois are liberal? I think that is largely true. When you look at even a lot of deep blue states in this country, like California, like New York, you saw on ballot propositions, and you've seen from some of these politicians have embraced, like Eric Adams, that even in Democrat states, even though they don't like Trump and blah, 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 oh my God, orange man bad, blah, blah, it turns out on social issues, they're not nearly as crazy as the actual politicians in their state capital are, right? Prime example of this, the anti-crime proposition in California. And this was essentially, you know how they've been doing the smash and grab in California, right? So anything under $950, you can just take. The police can't go after it. So there was this proposition in California. I forgot which one. I don't live there anymore. But it brought that back to a felony, right? It made that a felony again. It was lowered to a misdemeanor alongside a lot of other things. So it's a tough on crime bill. Passed among the California electorate. It's a proposition, I should say, on the ballot. Passed with 70% of the vote. 70% of the vote. So what does that indicate? Well, even in deep blue places where the electorate is more liberal and they certainly are not voting for Trump, it turns out even people in LA and New York don't like crime. They don't like homelessness, right? Nobody likes this stuff. And yet you still have Democrat politicians in office who are like installed by George Soros and just doing all these like crazy things that even the Democrat voters there are not really the biggest fan of. By the way, you might bring up Oregon as an example, like Portland, right? Very progressive. But even there, I think they actually backed off on some of their policies to be like giving out free drugs to the homeless or decriminalizing all drugs, I should say. They backed off of that even there, right? So as it turns out, yeah, a lot of the even Democrat-leaning electorate in this country is not as liberal as the politicians think they are. I think you saw that a lot in the 2024 election, why softer blue places flipped all the way red, because everyone is tired of this. Turns out no one likes crime and no one likes homelessness, okay? So my thing is this. If we're not going to get Republican mayors in LA, New York, Chicago, places like that, I at least hope that you get Democrat mayors that really are not as concerned with like national politics and culture wars and are more just like common sense people who actually do good for their cities, okay? And I think there are some maybe cities where that's happening, I'm not sure, but I think you're seeing the movement in that direction. I think that's a big reason why Eric Adams in New York, besides the fact that he wants a pardon from Trump, which is obviously true, that's the other reason he sort of like changed his tune and now he's like, yeah, let's deport the illegals and all this stuff. It's like, well, yeah, he does want a pardon, but at the same time, I think he kind of intrinsically understands that the electorate, like the actual people in New York, don't like this stuff. They're complaining about it, even if they didn't vote for Trump. So, you know, maybe that's a little bipartisan moment we can have in our culture. It's crazy we have to say that, but how about that? Left and right come together and say, crime is bad. Wow, I know, crazy, but that's not what the country's been for the past several years. So maybe we can have that national epiphany. Oh my gosh, we don't like crime. We don't like people running around and stealing stuff and assaulting people and killing people. That's so, wow, right? But yeah, I think you're seeing that sentiment in a lot of Democrat cities. Everyone's tired of crime. Everyone's tired of homelessness. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think eventually you will see that start to backfire in elections on the Democrats. By the way, you've already seen that, right? George Gascon in LA, that's the crazy George Soros district attorney who, you know, has been allowing all the crime there. He lost his re-election bid by like 30 points. He lost badly in the 2024 election. Interesting, right? I think they just voted out the mayor of Oakland, California, because she's another like crazy pro-crime leftist. Again, normal people. It's a weird national unity moment where we realize that Republican and Democrat voters have more in common than we think, because it's like, oh, we both agree that crime is bad? Wow, you know? I don't know if that's enough to really achieve national unity, because that should be like a very basic take. Yeah, committing crimes is bad, but, you know, if some of these cities, whether it's under Republican or Democrat leadership, decide to clean up a little bit, I think that's objectively a good development. And I don't really care what party. I think we need to revitalize our cities in this country. We need to stop allowing people to be, you know, killed in the streets, basically. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely think you're seeing that movement a little bit nationwide. So Meatloaf says 2020 was the best thing that could have happened to the US and Trump. I don't know if I'd go that far. Okay, there's still a lot of damage, a big hole we have to climb out of now, like inflation, for instance, a lot of issues. A lot of people died from the chaos. But objectively, yeah, to some extent, like everything that happened that year and since was the big vindication. It woke a lot of people in this country up to the fact that Trump was right. And you saw that in the 2024 election. So I definitely understand what you're saying. So for sure. Let's see. New York and New Jersey are looking great for the GOP. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that for sure. I'm definitely very interested in the 2026 or 2025, I should say, New Jersey governor's race. That'll be something to watch. The only concern could be, you know, if the Democrat turnout is higher than the Republicans because they're pissed, then that's not a great national environment for us next year in the special elections. However, you know, I think what you've also seen largely is a lot of Democrats are kind of demoralized after 2024. So if they don't want to turn out either, then maybe that's an opportunity for us. Maybe we ride the momentum instead of kind of like getting complacent. We'll have to see. But the New Jersey governor's race, definitely going to be something to watch. Let's not forget, back in 2021, we came very close to winning, right? Glenn Youngkin in Virginia did win. New Jersey was very close. You've seen how much that state has changed. Trump only lost New Jersey by, what was it, like 5 points? Very close for those standards. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. So, anyways, guys, let me check any last few super chats here. I think we're all good. Okay, with that said, guys, we'll wrap up tonight's stream. We should be live, I believe, next Tuesday. Again, schedule is going to be crazy because of travel and, you know, Christmas and going to America Fest, New Year's. But we'll let you know. Should be live next Tuesday night. Might even go live on Sunday because I know we haven't been live in a while. So stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you to everyone who tuned in to tonight's stream. Be sure to leave a like on the stream before you go. Have a very good night, good weekend, Merry Christmas. You know, they tried to take away Christmas. They were saying Happy Holidays. I brought it back.